Guys, welcome back to Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. Yeah, in our last episode, we started this game as Alyson, a Ventrue vampire. Or, well, actually, she was a woman, turned into a Ventrue vampire by some shady, mysterious benefactor. And when I say benefactor, I mean vampire who was somebody else's benefactor paying a debt back. Once again, this is going to be a little different. This is a visual novel game, and you will only see me at the beginning and the end of each episode. Otherwise, you're going to just hear the words that are coming out of my mouth as they appear on the screen. I hope you guys are enjoying this. It's different, and I'm excited to see where it goes because I'm a big fan of Vampire the Masquerade, of the World of Darkness. Let's get going, shall we? We left off in the tutorial. Hunger is at the heart of a vampire's existence. To ignore it is to tempt the beast to take over in its desire to feed. To overindulge in feeding may threaten the masquerade, while staining what is human left in you. Or what humanity you have left. Ad-libbing. Should stop doing that. In Coteries of New York, having a high hunger is indicated by your progressively thicker blood frame around the screen. Interesting. Like you see now. So they're talking about this, I'm assuming. As your hunger grows, so does the indicator. Your hunger may increase when you call upon your vampiric powers, or when you need to mend your wounds after a fight. Wait, we're gonna have, like, wounds and stuff? In a visual novel game? Oh, I'm excited. When your hunger reaches its maximum level, you will receive a warning after you complete a piece of story. Ignore it at your own peril. Some choices might only become visible if your hunger is high enough. Similarly, high hunger may block off some choices, as you will be able to see after pressing continue. Okay, cool. So here's the blocked off option, and here, so we can't not continue. Oh, the double negatives, that hurt. To decrease your hunger, you must feed. When you see a feeding opportunity, you can take it. You can take the risk to hunt and slake your hunger. Not stake it. We dealt with almost getting staked in our last episode of Vampire the Masquerade. Bloodlines. Well, not really. A hunter tried to set us on fire. Blocked off option. Feeding option. Okay, so that's the fangs option. That option also showed up when we were drinking that bag of nasty in the previous episode of this series. You will need to keep your hunger at bay if you are to uphold the masquerade and survive the nights that await you. Cool. Let's take a nap. Man, it's so pretty. Your eyes open. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. Normally, you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings, you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and hit the snooze button for a moment longer. But that was before. The way you woke up now, you're fully conscious. No grogginess. Nothing to weigh you down. Just that nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger. Not as severe as last time, but it's unmistakably there. You get up, open the door into the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows you the time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is from NYC's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You miss the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out of your apartment and figuring all of this out by yourself. But then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't a bad idea after all. You keep jumping channels for around a half an hour and switch to the streaming services. Almost as if the universe has had some sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings, or buzzes obnoxiously. It's Sophie. Good evening, Alyson. Have you slept well? Like the dead. Like a dead man. Curious words, but not too far from the truth, I suppose. No use dwelling on it. I think you will agree with time. You made the right choice yesterday. I can teach you many things about yourself, your blood, its desires, its powers. We begin tonight. You're hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There is only one remedy. Blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way to slake your thirst. So tonight I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerabilities to your advantage. And no more freebies. So, no more drinks on the house? An official meeting at the Elysium does not happen every night. Besides, I think you'll find there's a unique thrill to the hunt for fresh, hot blood that is absent from drinking from a glass. You will find drinking moderate amount of it regularly will keep your hunger and the whispers from your beast at bay. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives some kind of pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some even become addicted to that sensation. But if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeding. A lot of vampire mythoses have this, where the person gets off on the vampire feeding off them. It did that in Buffy. It's done that in True Blood, just like True Blood came up in this game. Real quick, if you're curious, Elysium is a place where vampires gather without fear of harm. Count functions in Elysium are strictly kept apart from mortals and surrounded by secrecy. But the Elysium building itself could be a public museum, a gallery, or a club. Berghain is the Anarch Elysium. The Louvre is the Camarilla Elysium. Alright, cool. And the kiss is the act of drinking blood. That one's pretty obvious. And some people, like I said, get off on it. After all, vampires do not exist. They're myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. That is why the masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. Alright, how do I avoid being seen? How to avoid being seen while feeding? You isolate your prey, or choose the right circumstances. People tend to avert their gaze when they see a couple entwined in public. Love bites are easily explained away. God, I do that a lot in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Walk by an alley, see somebody walking in an alley, no one else around, lunch. Some of us keep willing herds, or even just an individual kind who desire the kiss. That comes with a higher risk these nights, though I would not recommend it to a young kindred such as yourself. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous. But by branching out, you risk the ire of other kindred whose domains you trespass. Lucky for you, New York City is forgiving in that regard. Domains, in the strictest definition, is an area of a particular vampire's influence. The princes claim the entire cities as their domains, and sometimes allowing lesser vampires to claim domains within. New York is somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time. But keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves these upcoming nights. As long as you hunt cautiously and respect the masquerade at all times, you will be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. The busy street fills the air with traffic noises, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really think of these people as just mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car casually joins the somewhat thin New York traffic. It's still busy in a way. Only one of the biggest cities in the world would be. But compared to the daytime commute, it's a relatively pleasant drive. You barely have time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're among the tall scrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. Come, Alyson. Park the car, Gregory, will you? The driver nods, and Sophie gets out. You join her, and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, and then the elevator up. This is a pretty museum. You first notice the empty stage, with the instruments of the string quartet still in the back. Then it takes a few dozen chairs. Then take in the few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seemingly is concluded. The patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse and flashes it in front of the security guard. You follow close and are let in without an issue. Let's start easy. A social setting is one would usually prove quite challenging for an inexperienced kindred. But consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I'm hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one is soft. This one I have a soft spot for. I can't read today, but then I can't read most days. Don't damage her, please. Now let's see here. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. It's called awe. It's called awe. She's using awe. It's a vampire ability that makes her seem really, really awesome. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How's your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over here, please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. A young woman walks up across the hall. can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't quite fit in this crowd. Julie, this is Alyson. I think of the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods toward the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure exactly what Sophie expects you to do. You reach the secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out what the next step is. So you're with Sophie. Then I guess you're, I mean, that, you know. She puts her wrist to her lips and gives her a theatrical nip. And then looks at you, embarrassed, but also hopeful? Yeah, I do. Yes, yes, I do. She takes off her jacket and unbuttons her sleeve, then rolls it up. You see the tattoo of the cat in an astronaut suit. One feline eye winking at you. There, just, enjoy. And that is a really cool tattoo. I actually really do appreciate that cat tattoo. Actually, I appreciate her whole aesthetic. She looks cool. A perfectly awkward smile and a blush. Drink from Julie. Why not? I mean, she's offering. The masquerade is safe. This is all set up by Sophie. We're cool. You take her forearm in your hand. Quick look around confirms nobody's watching. No cameras cover the area. You bite down gently. It's surreal. She's just given you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. She's in on it, child. Come on. You tear away from her. A brief convulsion shakes you. Her smell is not right. A temporary feeling of bliss the girl has felt when you bit her is gone in an instant. She's disappointed, annoyed even. She looks at you, unsure of what's the matter. Come back, please. Just have some more. Just take a bit more. The very thought makes you want to throw up. And what little of her blood you've tasted, you shake your head. The girl sniffs and starts crying. Wipes her face in her jacket sleeve, and walks down the stairs into the hall. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly, looking at her now. Only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yeah, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, but not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid talking to you. But we have to get going. Give my best wishes to Julie. Come with, Alyson. Gregory's waiting in front of you. It's only the car, so in the car that Sophie addresses you. So, how'd it go? I tried, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand the smell or the taste. Curious. I considered Julie's blood to have one of the most exquisite and unique bouquets of the city. Trust me, I do have a refined taste. She almost sounds like she's offended. Oh. Well, if first you don't succeed, perhaps we need to find a change of pace. For our next stop, training wheels off. This time. Gregory, Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over to the Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. What did you do to the people back there? The people back in that hall. They were entranced. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. That old trick? just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherited by our sire. Others have learned it through experience. I can sway people, or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. And I can will my blood to move with unparalleled precision and grace. And much, much more. All of these skills make me who I am. And they also help me hunt. Okay. Oops, I want to do the other one. How exactly do I use these talents? You will the blood to do your bidding. Many times you'll find that you do these things intuitively or passively. But making the entire room focus their attention on you, that's tempting the beast. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is fine if you can disappear from plain sight or command animals with your mind. But save those overt talents for the right place and the right time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems to be deep in thought. She takes in her surroundings in a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight, and the stars just barely visible through the light-polluted aura of the city. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood. But only pick one victim. Just one, and then come back. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have a few choices. But taking a stroll around the park, let's start that over. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or someone like them could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby. Worst case scenario, there's bound to be an unfortunate wino around. Now, we gotta think about, in the last episode, our blood type. Like, the stuff we're interested in. Or maybe even the tennis courts nearby. The light coming from there, somebody might still be playing a late night match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired to let their guard down. These scenarios all play out in your mind. You realize you're planning on how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but now familiar with the hunger prompts you to act. Alright, so I think the sentences are going to be very particular. Search for a victim around the park. Hunt near the decrepit pavilion. Look for prey near the tennis courts. Or just take a walk and don't feed. Decrepit pavilion, I think there's not going to be anyone of our type. Ours was a businessman in their 40s. I would want to say we go to the tennis courts, but that might cause a problem. Let's go to the I feel like the tennis courts are where we need to be, and I'm going to regret it. You decide the tennis courts are a good place as any, and you make your way to the glow of the lamps of the illuminating the area. As you guessed, there are pairs of players. 2 men, fit but older, pushing 60, are finishing a match. They are the only ones there. It's time to make a move. We're going to use presence to lure a player away. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall. How did she manage to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her? That might be a tall order for you, but a single person? That could be doable. You wait patiently until the two men hit the showers, get out, and say their goodbyes. They go their separate ways, and one of them notices you standing there. You immediately grab his attention. Good evening. Very good. Oh yes, very good. You? Oh yeah, I'm having a blast. You? Won both sets. Not bad for a grandpa. He's clearly happy with himself. You decide there won't be a better moment to strike. Moving closer, casually at first, closing the distance in a single leap. You sink your fangs into his flesh. That's a bit aggressive, Alyson. You only take a sip before you realize your mistake. The taste of mud and bile fills you for a second time tonight. You push him away. He stumbles and falls to the ground. You can barely believe your luck. The hunger in you is unsated. You leave the courts in a foul mood. You're about to walk back to Sophie, and a figure emerges from the shadow and stops you in your tracks. A hooded man looks menacingly at you. Oh no! Okay. What are you doing on my... What are you doing here? Yeah. Okay. What do you think you're doing here, barging onto my turf like this, Lick? Lick? What kind of slur is that? What did you just call me? A lick? What is that supposed to mean? Don't be cute with me. I know what you are. Shove that masquerade bullshit up your ass. Better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and I beat it out of you. Oh boy. Oh boy. For those of you who, lick is a derogatory term usually used to address the young and inexperienced vampires. Oh, I don't know if I... Okay, so he is a super angry sort. I kind of almost bet he's with the Anarchs. I don't know if I want to mention I'm with the Camarilla. But I'm young and stupid. Or I could just keep threatening him. You know what? No, we're not the angry one. Oh, it's one of these two, but I don't know what to do. I'm with the Camarilla. Chill out. I'm with the Camarilla. He does anything but chill out. He immediately tenses up and gives you an extremely nasty look, and bares his fangs. You're with the Ivory Tower, cunts, huh? Well, 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 tonight is my lucky night. The Ivory Tower. Another name for the Camarilla. I didn't need to open the page for that. I mean, I could have just translated that without pushing buttons. I'ma fuck you up and bring you to kill Callahan. He'll get some fun breaking your shins, and maybe, by the end of it, you'll have a nice long nap. I wonder what you taste like, Lick. He does his best impression of Hannibal Lecter's a nice Chianti shtick. That weird tongue, that sippit, that hissing thing, I can't do it. But he is not as intimidating as he thinks. You know what? We're a new vampire. Dominate. Enough's enough. You won't be intimidated by this asshole. Leave. Now. His countenance changes. A cruel beast at the moment, and a humble pup the next. He walks away. Just like that. How did you do it? Not wishing to tempt fate any further, you return to the Unisphere, looking back over your shoulder to make sure you are not being followed. Two figures are visible near the sculpture, a man and a woman. tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding. But the whole scene is set up to look like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done 100 times before. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure, but on his feet as she lets go of him and leads him towards a nearby tree branch. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Ah, well, Alyson, how did it go? You're about to answer. The same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at the three of you. A predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You're screwed, dumb fuck. You think you can mess with my head and get away with it? I think you'll be safe with your friends? I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, but two things happen almost at the same time. First, a feeling of warmth and beauty emanates from Sophie. That feeling of warm beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. The show comes out weak, in a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from his holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Just like that, in a few seconds, that posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Alyson. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He said this was his turf, and that I trespassed on it. I thought this place was supposed to be safe. Well, he's not a part of the Camarilla. Corona Park hasn't been claimed by anyone I know of. Curious. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this hoodlum's acquaintance. Gregory carries the staked vampire and dumps him into the car in the trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing a stiff into a car and driving away. But then you remember that Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still, that nagging thought that anything you did tonight could be recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone and streamed online fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is dangerous business. And it's clear this whole being a vampire thing, it has about as many caveats as it does perks. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I will pick you up tomorrow night. Same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at the Elysium, and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. And the social system in the city's kindreds, resembling a feudal system of mortals. At the top is the prince, below them is the members of the Primogen Council. Order in the domain is maintained by the sheriff, that's Kadir. The gatherings are organized in secret sanctuaries known as Elysium. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality that she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. What's gonna happen to him? The usual, I imagine. Interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial with the prince in attendance, if she's there tomorrow night. And a swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you. You can't help but feel like a pain of guilt when you think about what awaits that guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me how hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I hope. No. Absolutely not. I tried, but the blood was awful again. My picky tastes flared up again. I couldn't make myself drink from that man, even though I did bite him. This is unfortunate. I'm afraid I don't have any ready-made solutions for this. You'll need to trust your instincts. The sooner you learn what you're looking for in a vessel, the better. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift, and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. I will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any courtesy, Sophie leaves. Driven to her apartment by Gregory. Body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass by on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just like you left it a few hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and a few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or just sound really boring to read. There's nothing left to do but rest. You settle back down, lock your door. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. It's time to turn the lights off. The Haven is the vampire's home base, sanctuary, all that good stuff. You think of Julie. How many people in this city know about vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And that thug you met in the park? He's not Camarilla. Then what is he? They're independent vampires? How does this even work? I'm an Anarch girl to my soul. More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night when you start crossing them off your list instead of adding to it. Close your eyes. You sink down into the familiar, voidless nothing. And it greets you with warm, open arms. Like an old friend. Alright, let's take a rest. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark. The blackness of a coffin drifting into the abyss. Oh, right. The light. You grasp for the switch and flip it. The familiar cramped room with the steel door, no windows, comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom, fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand. The Melancholy of Resistance. That title's sure on brand. Good evening, Alyson. Good evening, Sophie. I hope you're well rested. Tonight is going to be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on the account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get into the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod with a small smile while opening the door for Sophie, and then he starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there. At least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you'd see, while at least you would do well to at least learn about. And Primogen Council is the group... Oh, this is a lot of text. The Primogen Council represents the interest of the local kindred, and it advises the prince in the matters of law and rule. Traditionally, it consists of representatives from each of the most prominent clans or factions in the domain. Naturally, favoring those of the Camarilla, though outsiders are allowed to report any issues to the Primogen not of their own clan. Primogens are often elders, despite the term Primogen, from the Latin meaning firstborn, there are no rules in place that this is how it must be. In fact, during the last few decades, More and more councils have had drastic changes to their structure. Alrighty. Who should I talk to? Anyone I should talk to when we arrive? Not especially. My advice is to try to talk to the prince and perhaps reassure her of your gratefulness for being spared. Maybe speak to Kadir on the same topic if you get a hold of him. The Primogen I would advise against. They are rather stuck up, all told. And even if they will talk to you, they might try to secure you for their nefarious purposes. And I would not appreciate that. Of course, be respectful. If anybody approached you and strikes up a conversation, you will no doubt be gossiped about. As well I. Keep a cool head. Some enjoy provoking fledglings into acting stupid. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember, I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in court. Do not tarnish it. And there it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting you and teaching you. But it is clear what she's really concerned about. Her own interests. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. Last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there's very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that is definitely intended to remind you of your plates, but the prince, also in attendance, seemed pleased to see you. Welcome, Sophie. Alyson. Did I get that right? Good evening, both of you. I understand there is somebody else you wish to present at court tonight. Yes, my prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. Better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive my sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Alyson's begetter eluding his grasp, I believe. Oh, he lost sight of the guy who turned us. Ouch. That must hurt his ego. Even if he's only replying with a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you grit your teeth in anger. Asshole. Settling you with a curse that cut you off from your career, cheated you out of your ambitions, and offering you little return so far. You remind yourself that defeatism will get you nowhere. Mindfulness, here and now. This is an opportunity. You will make the most of it, if only to spite everyone who doubts your true worth. The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory has entered the room. A jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked over his shoulder. The show is about to start. Sophie's driver places the charge in the middle of the room, respectfully nods to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake in his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life. He starts looking around in disbelief, like a quartered animal. He backs out on all fours. Keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Kadir steps up to the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why do we have you here? Why? Who do we have here? Oh fuck, oh shit, oh no, come on, don't! Silence. The sheriff takes out an aura of utter dread. He appears as if a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks. You could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced before. In his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into the fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man, don't! You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs. At the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince? Get up. Let's go. He doesn't wait for confirmation. Just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming, out of the room. Conversations startle around you. Some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored with this whole affair. Her eyes keep wandering from one piece of art to piece of art, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. What happens now? It'll be at least some minutes before Kadir returns with the information he seeks out of this thug. Why not mingle and wait for him to break? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes to the corner of the gallery to a group of kindred. Some seemingly pretty old-fashioned gathered. A concierge offers you a drink. Still warm. Smells nice. Just a sip to start you off. A splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the insides of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing a few nights ago. She is cold, but notable continence to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting with different patrons. You'll feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. So, do we talk to the prince and thank them once again for saving our asses? I think it's rude to interrupt the prince's conversation. And I'm not sure about the guy with the glasses, but I'm kind of curious about the dude. So let's go talk to the dude. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everyone in this room has. At one point or another. It's just how he does it. He's shy. Maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has the entire corner of this room to himself. As you approach, he's standing alone, no glass of wine in hand, with a worried look on his face. Good evening, Mr. Larson. You can call me Robert. Either's fine. So, who are you? You mean like generally? I'm a vampire, same as you. Though, I might not quite look at it. Look at it. I'm one of the Prince's Picard's here on business. In case the Prince requires my insight. Usually, it's so she can hear me out before ignoring me. This is the guy that she ignored. Not sure if you've been paying attention the other night, but the prince had mentioned diverging opinions on whether or not you should be executed. That was me. I was the diverging opinion. Wow, thanks. Even if it didn't exactly change the prince's mind. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Listen, I don't want to be rude, but I appreciate you reaching out. But word of advice, stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be some kind of joke. You know, you talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. Quick look behind you, you see a few faces. A few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me. I'm gonna try to get a word in with a few Primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With critical looks from a few kindred, To keep you company, you start thinking who to pursue next. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disrupted. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably find time for at least one more conversation. Let's go talk to the prince. You approach the prince, trying to stay respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you and steps forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for a moment, Samara. Samira? Yes, Alyson, what is it? I wanted to give you my thanks. I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realized it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it for the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of the city that it was so. And there might be more to your future knights than survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me. That is all the time I have to spare right now. We have something to discuss with Samara here. Enjoy your night, Alyson. Just bow and leave. Nope. You leave the conversation with the two women, which they are almost back to immediately after the prince turns to Samara. A loud exchange can be heard from the staircase, grabs everybody's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes the other vampire inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face with a welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken. You think something is protruding there, making his pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted in a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. Who do you run with, Howard? The Midnighters. An Anarch coterie, my prince. Active for some time now. Though, from what he has told me, the name is about the only legacy that group has kept over the years. An Anarch coterie is a small group of kindred united by the need to support and sometimes common interests. Need for support and common interests. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. A loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract piece on the floor. An involuntary reaction. Your eyes look down as the red drops seem to... And you feel a pang of hunger. Even though you had some blood tonight, it seems it wasn't enough to fully control your instincts. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone should be enough to pass swift judgment. But he is also Anarch scum, my prince. There is only one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Final death shouldn't really need to be explained, but when a vampire ceases to exist, crossing the line from undeath to true death. Can't get back up, will get knocked down, can't get back up again, will always be down. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being the Good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley only a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. I keep wanting to use my powers. It worked before. Dominate. The moment you catch Howard's eye, ordering him comes to you almost instinctively. Stop. He stops and looks at you, with one eye, the other swollen closed by Kadir's interrogation. A swift slash separates his head from his shoulders. The body slumps to the ground and starts decomposing in front of you. The sheriff, sword in hand, gives you a nasty smile from behind where Howard used to stand. Well, Alyson, your eagerness is laudable, if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not facing Kadir's expertise. However, I have made note of this show of loyalty, on both your and your patron's accounts. I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this Anarch thug to my and Kadir's attention. I assume you have found this verdict satisfactory? It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it. Then I conclude tonight's meeting concluded. Or considered. Yeah. Good night, all of you. She steps out of the room. You see that many of the guests have moved to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what just transpired. You probably have time to strike up a conversation of your own. Kadir al-Asmai is still here for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the Anarch is still chatting with the remaining attendees. I want to go talk to Kadir, because I don't want to accidentally talk to any more Primogen. The sheriff's mood seemed to improve, so you decide you wouldn't get a better shot at saying your piece. He is just sheathing his sword when you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of reflection. What is it, Alyson? I wanted to say thank you for bringing me here. In one piece. For giving me a chance. The emotion creeps onto Kadir's face that you haven't seen the sheriff exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting. Only there for a moment and gone in the blink of an eye. It was trying on my nerves. And you are still far away from proving that it was the right thing to do. So don't think that a few kind words is going to let you off the hook. Yo, Kadir, buddy, I didn't do anything to you, man. I just exist. Still, I have to admit, I was surprised as the prince when you jumped in at the opportunity to stop that Anarch from escaping. I'm sure Valerie would have beaten you to it. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Enjoy being the sheriff? Tell me, do you enjoy this, being the sheriff to Prince Panhard? Enjoyment has nothing to do with it. It is my duty. When Calabros asked me to fill the shoes of the sheriff and root out our enemies, I was glad to serve the set. When Helene became prince and asked me to keep doing it, I agreed. Because I believe that the Camarilla and I have respect the fact that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So you're also a fan of Star Trek, Kadir, as well as baseball? He picks up his sword and turns to the stairs. If a few more Kindred understood that, my job would be much duller, though. And on that note, I wish you a good night. And watch yourself. You messed up my batting average. So I'm going to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory is waiting for us downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something, and not all that in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time, you arrive to another building, 2 streets from the apartment. 2 streets from across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs, through a very nice lobby, and a luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please, have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings. The apartment in the gallery is old-school smoking room that you've seen from a period piece once, and a Nouveau Richie's living room, meticulously combined together. Apologies. Old habits die hard. Clearly, some stick with you even after death. She's referring to the smoke in her hand. She drags on her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes? How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes. You might not know. It takes some practice, but you can keep the smoke. You can keep smoking if you like, and other things too. Experiment. You might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. The door in the back is my bedroom, similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you that I needed your best behavior to uphold my good standing in court, I meant it. But that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven. And I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else it won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something. When you're in trouble, too. Though I hope that won't happen. I would ask you to come here when you wake tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. And I'll be there. I'll come here first thing tomorrow night. I appreciate that. Silence again. There's definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. I'll give you a lift. Quick trip. I promise that you'll show up tomorrow and have some polite goodbyes later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into the secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing you have become. You sink into the vampiric sleep with just the sliver of hope. Sliver, yeah. It's a welcome change. Alright. We're gonna leave this here. I think is absolutely perfect. Let's do this. Hi, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed that. That is interesting. We met up with some Anarchs, and I kind of secretly hope we can become an Anarch, just like we're trying really hard, but probably failing in the other series, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. I hope you're enjoying this. I know I am. It's different, so it's kind of neat. I'm curious to see where this leads us. But until then, I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and each other. Do the things down below, all that stuff, with the bells and the whistles and the buttons. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye! Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for more videos, on your left, you're going to find something brand new, or probably something you haven't seen. And on your right, you will find something recommended to you by YouTube. And right there below, you'll see me. If you hit that button, you're going to find everything else that I've done. So push it now!